Hi there guys, this is Jaime Alvarez, and I recently got top 16 at the ARG Nats in Philly, and I wanted to show you guys off deck profiles. This one will be my Aqua deck profile, and the reason for it is because it got me my LCQ invite to get to the Nats, so I figured it would be worthwhile showing it off. So this LCQ invite tournament was basically in June, right when Radiant Sword dropped. So Kagura were getting their G Guardians, and that sounds like a bad idea, but at the time I was really comfortable with Aqua Force mainly, so I didn't really have time to explore other options besides my clan. So then the other matchup that I was concerned was CBD mainly for the Link Joker matchup. So I had to basically brainstorm which kind of build of Aqua Force should I go, and my two options were basically Tavas and Blue Waves. Tavas is my main deck that I like to play. It's my favorite one, hence the character name. And I felt like I had to commit more to the board to do effective Lambros turns. And generally, it's hard to do against CBD sometimes. So you can do plays like Saber Flow with Orphea to get the fourth battle using Tavas, and getting the retire and draw 2 and leave an Orphea with resist on the board, not a problem. And then, basically you outgrind them if you can. But I felt like maybe that wasn't such a great idea at the moment, because Kagura can just retire your Saber Flow and just totally throw off your strategy from there. So then the other variant that I looked into was the Blue Wave, and one of the things I like about Blue Wave is that you don't have to commit as much to make a push. Primarily Anger Boil, striding with Tetra Boil, and having a 5-Yos just gives you an instant 4 attacks just by striding and calling 5-Yos. And it also gives you the access of Tetra Boil, which is a restanding stride, and it's pretty good, especially for the clan. It does a neg 1 at the end, which is perfect for Aqua Force because it needs its combo pieces, especially for the next turn. And so I was trying to make a build to basically commit to less resources and do as much as I can, and outpace Kagura and even Link Joker, because at least 50% of the matchups I expected either of those two, and so that's why I decided to choose Blue Wave. So without further ado, here's the lineup. Doing 4 Anger Boil. He's really good, especially his GB2 skill. Helps you get some massive attacks with 5-Yos if you're not able to stride and you're already Generation Break 2. The other thing I like about him is that he has Blue Wave in the name. So 5-Yos is instantly live as soon as you ride to grade 3. So that gives you 4 attacks even if you're not in Generation Break, thanks to 5-Yos. And so the important thing about Anger Boil as well is the stride skill. When you stride Tetra Boil, when Tetra Boil attacks the second battle to the Vanguard, you can restand potentially a column. And it doesn't have to be Generation Break 2, it's the stride skill. So you could do a first stride Tetra Boil and restand like a 5-Yos and a Seagull Soldier, and actually do 4 attacks that turn without committing too many resources. Yeah, you won't get to restand, but you still get a triple drive. And with the triple drive, you can stack triggers on the 5-Yos because he's gonna restand and do 2 more attacks. And they're actually pretty big numbers if you're comboing off with Seagull Soldier as well. So Anger Boy was big, and his basically backup is Tetra Drive. Tetra Drive is there because he has the Blue Knife name. He is also there as a Limit Break enabler. Not enabler, Vanguard. So if for whatever reason you seem fit to do his Limit Break before even striding, then that's the way to go. Other than that, I really just use him for the Blue Wave name. So that's really it. So with the grade 2s, moving on to 5-Yos. 5-Yos is the restander for basically Blue Wave. He helps you do the Tetra turns, whether it's the stride or the Limit Break one. He's really good because he's 11k when he attacks and just restands. He's not Generation Break, so he's instantly live if you have a Blue Wave Vanguard, which could be your grade 2 or your grade 3 turn. Which makes, the Anger Boil ride even better. So, it's almost like you don't have a vanilla Vanguard at that point. So that's why I play Vafios. And it combos off easily against, like, the Link Joker matchup where, let's say you stride first and you could just call him and then Seagull Soldier and then go off, and then he's the only unit on board, and they lock your other circle, and then they lock that circle. And then your next turn you can follow up with Thavas for 2 stride turns, really, until finally you can push him out, Thanks to Thavas, he can give you extra attacks from the back row. And getting as much attacks as you can against Link Joker, especially CBD, gives you the edge to win. I also run 4 Tidal. Tidal's really good. He's also there for the early push. I also play the Seagull Soldier mainly because of Tidal as well. Because when you ride a grade 2 and you have a Tidal to call with the Seagull Soldier, you can call Tidal first, then the Seagull Soldier, pay the Soul Blast cost, make him a 12k attacker, and you basically have 3 good attacks for that turn. And your opponent can either be on grade 1 or grade 2 in this chance. So what happens is that you can do your 12k attack from Tidal first, and then you can have your Vanguard grade 2 with the booster attacking for 14. So even if they took that damage and got a trigger, that still hits, and that's really up to them at that point if they want to guard or not. And if they take it and they only saw 1 trigger in total, your Tidal column with Seagull Soldier can still hit because it hits the perfect number 14. So that's really important. So Tidal is also good. You need him because he's freestanding to get like Lambros and abuse him afterwards too. A lot of the times that depend on Fabios, just because most of the time you're gonna go into the Tetra Boil turn, just because it's like less commitment and could potentially plus you with the Blue Wave crit too. So. But your opponent sees Tidal as a threat as well, and he sees Fabios as a threat, and you have 8 cards that are instantly live at grade 2, which is great. I also use Tidal with the Forerunner, and I'll get to that when I get to the Forerunner. So, cool. The next grade 2s, I chose Magnum Assault. Magnum Assault is another restander. He needs to be boosted, but he's generic in a sense where I can choose to use the Tetra Boil turn, or I can do the Lambros turn. It's awkward using the Blue Wave Fabios to do a Lambros turn, because you still need a restander on the other front row, and Magnum Assault is just perfect to do the Lambros turn, and you can use your Tidal on the other front row to attack a rear guard. So you can give him, all the triggers to Tidal after Lambros attacks and restands them, and then go, nuts with Tidal. So Magnum's there just to help out. I was taking ratios with 2, 3, and 4, and I felt like 2 was the right ratio for me, and I'll get to explain why in a bit. My 2 one-ofs in grade 2s is Adelaide and High Tide Sniper. The purpose of Adelaide is that when you're on the Thawas Vanguard, you can use her skill, and she's restanding. Purpose of that is that she's really good with the Link Joker matchup too. So once you have to be on Thavas, you can call her and get 3 attacks, because you could just make her attack from the back row, and she'd be 16 base as well, which is really good numbers. The other thing is that you can do combos with her and even a Fabios, because your heart's Blue Wave, so you can get a good amount of attacks and combos from that. And if you don't fit to use it, you could always just guard with it, it's not a big deal. High Tide is there. Basically, sometimes I felt like the Tetra Boil turn is only better when you have a rear guard still standing after the second Vanguard attack, so you can stack all those triggers on that one. Because sometimes they could just perfect guard the second Vanguard attack, which most of the time they do, so it feels like a waste if you get a crit that time, or even just triggers in general. So High Tide was presumably the one card that I could just place, and he gets bigger by himself if I whiff. But if I don't whiff, he's even a bigger threat, and he's also good when the Lambro's turn. So he's really useful. So, out to the grade 1s. 4 on Flipper PG Plateau. And the reason for that is because Blue Wave tend to counterblast more than most of the Aqua Force variants. So I felt like this was essential, and honestly, I play in such a way where I can afford to lose a title or Fabio's each turn. So I don't feel like I need to use the other PG to, you know, protect it. And I don't know, you're dropping 2 cards to save 1 card kind of seems bad most of the time. So I don't really play that way to protect my rear guards. It's a lot easier to with my trigger lineup that I'll go into in a bit. And you also have Dismal the G Guardian, which I do run to protect those important rear guards. So he's there for the unflip, and most of the time I actually ride him because my other grade 1s I rather them as rear guards. And so when I Soul Blast with Seagull Soldier, he's already in the drop zone. And then the next time you actually perfect guard, you instantly unflip, which will come up most of the time by you know, when you actually have to PG. So yep. Moving on. I play 3 Strike Fighter. I was playing 4, but I felt like 3 was better. Reason is I play 6 draw, so I'm able to either hit the grade 3 or the grade 1 used to stride with. So that's really all his purpose. And after, you know, various testing, I figured 3 was perfect because, you know, you want to always stick in some grade 2s and grade 1s, and space is tight. So it worked out for me. The other grade 1s, Seagull Soldier. He's really good. He's good for the Fabios Tetra Boil turn because you could always just bounce him on the 4th battle, and if you really want to, you could just like discard him or discard another car. He's flexible, and he's great when you do the title turn as well, to, you know, hit that perfect mark regardless if the opponent got a trigger on the damage check. He's also there to help if you ride the PG to, you know, put him in the drop zone so you get the unflip earlier. So Sequel Soldier is really good. Recommend playing him and trying him out. I can't emphasize that the early game is really good, especially with Aqua Force, and a good majority of decks don't really have an early game to stop these many attacks. So getting free hits and making them like discard cards as early as possible is great because it makes their like first stride turn or first legion turn, whatever they play, like Luster, you know, and you just come back with Tetra Boil or Lambros, and just, you know, basically win from there, snowballing. The other grade 1s, I am playing 2 Orphea and 2 Stacia. Stacia basically helps with the Link Joker matchup. She can attack by the from the back row by herself. She's also there to help in case you can't get to the 4th battle for some reason, or you want to do some different plays. Especially if you want to get multiple attacks and when there were 5 damage, because basically 1 hit means game over unless they get a heal trigger. Other than that, it's really it, and she's there for boosting too early game, and if she's still alive, then Generation Break kicks in, and then you could do stuff like you can put her behind Fabios and then restand the column, and basically Fabios can attack by himself twice, and then this is still another attack. So if you know, you don't really have the other cards to play with, so that's an option too. But it helps with the Link Joker matchup, and Orphea is there as well because she has resist, and there's the other resist grade 1, which is Melina, I think. It's for Favas though, so I don't have Tavas in grade 3s, so this is the option I went with. And you can abuse Orphea too, because if you have a rear guard that's still high enough after reducing their power by 5k, you can get the extra attack, and sometimes I abuse her just to get an extra draw from my Forerunner, Bubble Edge, which I'll show off in a bit. And it helps too in matchups that try to retire units, and so she's just like there and just chilling. They can't get rid of her. And I'll go over how influential she won me a game as well. So the trigger lineup: playing for the Blue Wave one and 2 of the Sailor. The Blue Wave crit is really good because you're playing the Blue Wave variant, and I mean, it scares the opponent too because you're shoveling back a crit to the deck and then you're instantly drawing a card. So you get whatever you need sometimes from it. Half the time I just get it back on the draw, honestly. But it gives that placebo effect that crit is now in the deck, and so it makes Tetra Boil a little more scarier because it technically gets to the 4th drive check, which is more chances to hit triggers. And if you have more than one and you activate them all at the same turn, then you could actually +1 for each of them on the Tetra Boil turn, which is astronomical sometimes. And then the Sailor's there for the unflip when you need it. I've done it a few times actually where I needed it because it's like I either do Lambros turn because I only have one face up, or I use it and do the Tetra Boil turn, which it just depends what your opponent has in their hand late game. If you know they only have one PG. And a decent amount of hand size, you might as well have the Vanguard attack. Or if the cards you have currently in your hand or in your field don't work with the Lambros turn as effectively, then Tetra Boil is usually the safe bet too. So I tried the Thalva crit because you have the Thalva stride, but I felt it was kind of clunky. Like sometimes I really didn't use it, or sometimes it was too late. So Sailor is more useful, and the unflip has came up, so I'm glad I picked Sailor. So, draw triggers. Playing for Malika, and playing 2 of the Draco Kid. Malika's there. She's really important in Aqua Force, and she's there to give Tidal the extra boost sometimes. Or you can give it to Fabios, because Anger Boy will give it an additional +3, which on the 3rd attack, Fabios can attack for 17. Okay, so that hits a number, and so it's really helpful, and it builds Soul too for feeding Seagull Soldier and High Tide over here. So it's really good synergy with Malika. And then I needed extra draw just to get more combo pieces. I felt like Aqua Force does a lot of attacks already, so it makes up for the crit. I thought it was more important and more consistent to get the combo pieces each turn that you need. And you can afford to lose a Tidal or Fabios or a Stacia or whatever, you know, that turn, because more than likely you'll find the extra piece that you need because of another draw trigger. So, yep. The other is the 4 heal. I decided to play this artwork. I just liked it. The other option is that the trio deck I had, I kind of like this art better, so that's why I played her. And then the Forerunner. People have played the Blue Wave one, where basically makes Tetra Boil even scarier, the restanding turn. But CBD is a thing, Kagero is a thing. That thing's gonna die before it even gets to its usefulness, and because this is not GBD, GB restricted, I mean, you can shove it into Soul and then actually do a 1-for-1 or +2 with Tidal. So it's really important because you don't want to leave it on the floor, because Lane Joker will just lock it, and if they keep going locking it, they can do stuff with calling a maker, and I think the Forerunner needs a lock card to do something too, and at the very end they're just going to retire it, and you lose a card anyway. So you could shove it into Soul, and then you have Soul at least for like Seagull Soldier. With Tidal, if you have 2 Tidal and your Vanguard's a grade 2, you can do the skill on one of the titles, and then basically your 4th battle or more, you'll draw a card for each time. So you get 2 cards from one of the titles, and more than likely too. What's really important about Tidal is that he's almost like a PG, honestly. So your opponent feels like they have to kill the Tidal, otherwise they're going to take so much damage or they're going to lose so much advantage. So, and thanks to the Forerunner giving you the extra draw, you can afford to lose both titles if you really had to, because more than likely you're going to see Fabios or a 3rd title if you're lucky. So it's a little interesting combo. And then of course you can always abuse this guy later on the Lambros turn. You can use Tidal Assault and Orphea, and when Lambros restands the Tidal, that Tidal, if you attack the rearguard first, when he restands, he essentially can attack the Vanguard 3 times after the boost, and you'll be drawing 3 cards from him, which is pretty devastating and good for you. So yeah. So Stride Zone, what I liked about this build was that you can play really good strides, such as Tetra Boil, and Tetra is there for the restanding. He also does the not as much commitment as I mentioned earlier. So Kagero can retire your units, and thanks to the Anger Blower skill, you can do effective turns still. And then some clans just can't handle a restander, and so if that's the option to go, that's the option to go. Otherwise, there is the Thavas Stride. He's really good. At first I underrated him, but I found out once CBD became relevant, it's so much better right now at 4, thanks to the G Zone expansion, and thanks to having the Thavas name, you can play cards like Adelaide, for example, and he's really flexible. And if by chance you G guarded and he's your first strike still, or whatever, you can retire something too with his Generation Break 3, and he just helps you do some combos too, especially if they're 5 damage and you have a clunky field or a clunky hand. You can have like the extra card with a boost to get that extra attack, so they die from 5 damage, that kind of thing. Okay. Only playing 2 Lambros in this build. At first I had the 4-4-4, but it's really, the keyword is clunky. It's really clunky to go into Lambros most of the time. Really, best time to do Lambros is really when you have like a Magnum Assault. Just so you have the not Fabios, Tidal Assault to attack the rearguard, and then this can do the 4th battle. So it's really there for that. And in the LCQ there was 5 rounds, and I did not stride Lambros, and then in top 8 I strode Lambros once, and that was like at the end of the night basically. It's like, finally I strode Lambros. Lambros is one of my favorite strides, and he's really good, and he's still relevant, especially if you have like the key cards to make even more of a big push that turn. So that's why I keep him at least at 2, just to play the 1 Lambros turn if possible. And for the 2 other slots for strides, I have Aristato and Seabreeze. Seabreeze is there in case I really need to Generation Break if they either get Great Stuck, so you can punish them if you have the enough counterblast, or if for a reason they're stay Grade 2 just because. And you don't have to stride Seabreeze sometimes. Most of the time it's better off just working with Tidal and Fabios with your Grade 3. Most of the time you want Fabios, of course, because Tidal is kind of weak by himself, unless you have Seagull Scourger that turn. Fabios at least is 11k when he attacks, which makes a difference. Aristotle's there because pesky rear guards that you need to kill off, like an example was Laurel, and I kind of died in top 8 because of that, and I'll explain a little bit later why. Couldn't Aristotle. Didn't have the counterblast. G guards. I have Flolia. She is the generic Aqua Force 20k shield. She's pretty good, but it's only good for like the first wave or the second wave. It's all we have now. Can't wait till the next set drops with Aqua Force. Hopefully they get a really good G Guardian as well. That'd be great. The other 2 I play are Dismo and Screw You. Dismo's there to protect your rear guards if you need to, such as Tidal, Fabios, and Magnum Assault, essentially. Screw You is there basically to help you get the extra 10k shield in case you need to. You can pitch the Grade 3, and that helps you a lot with guarding sometimes, depending on the numbers they hit. So that's why I play the Screw You and the Dismal. My matchups for the LCQ were Dark Irregulars, Great Nature, Kagero, Nova Grapplers, and then Grand Blue. And Kagero was the hardest matchup. It was my friend Miguel. And the first game, he got me. The second game, it was a really grindy one. And basically, because of Orphea, let me see if I can find her. There she is. Basically, because of Orphea, since she just kept just staying there because she had resist, he couldn't kill it with Titan, and most players don't play Root Flare anymore. So it's not like he can retire the front unit and just kill the whole column. So, and since I'm constantly pushing every turn, I was making sure that he was having trouble with his hand and calling it any more units too, because they needed to have more rear guards to get their blaze on. And because of this, he had a hard time with it. And I think what he had in hand that he didn't really want to call was the actual heal trigger. So, you know, he could denial griffin me, essentially. So that's why one of the reasons I play her, because of resist. The Nova Grappler match was pretty fun, actually. It was the G build, so I think it was Victoplasma, basically. It was like restanding rear guards and restanding vanguards, and then I'm over here doing Tetra Boy as well, restanding rear guards and restanding vanguards. It's funny. I pulled through that. Went to game 3. Actually, game 3 I couldn't stride, and I had to work out with Anger Boil, essentially. And thanks to his GB2 skill, it made my 5-Yos be enough to just get him to 6 damage. And I was afraid that turn that I was going to lose because I couldn't stride. But it was able to be enough. So, and it's not the first time that day I used his GB2 skill, and it's really good. Just give him himself 5k and restanding a rigger and giving them 10k is really good for a push, just without striding. So I'm glad for that. And my Grand Blue matchup went to I want to say game 3. Game 3 I kind of whiffed where I couldn't reach stride. I was on Anger Boil and I was able to G guard, and by my last turn I did basically Anger Boil's GB2 skill because I G guarded at least twice, and it was just harder without striding. And Grand Blue was doing, you know, their stride stuff, and he got it. It was enough to go X1 and make it to top 8, and then we had to battle off to get top 4 to get invites. My first matchup was Gold Paladins, the Gurgit build, and essentially I knew he was going to do a Gurgit turn in game 2, and I decided to do the Tetra Boil turn over like a Lambros turn for that game. And I had the 2 blue wave crits in hand, so I was like, I might as well do Tetra Boil and get draw, because I know I'm going to need the hand to guard all that power from Gurgit. And so I did that, and it paid off, and I even hit a draw trigger, so I even had the extra card. And he did the Gurgit turn, and I lived that turn, and then the next turn I just came with Lambros, finally, all day, and, you know, finishing it off with Lambros. The next matchup was with William Cole, you know, Justice guy. He's playing the Robos, and this is what I was saying about Aristotle trying to kill that, you know, Laurel. But he left me on 1 damage, and I had to use that damage for Fabio's turn. And he did the break ride because he was at least at 4, because I was pushing hard. And that's generally what I wanted to do with the deck too, is push you hard every turn. You know, either you're gonna die or you're gonna lose a lot of hand advantage, and I gotta keep doing that until, you know, you lose. And he kept me at 1 damage because he was attacking my rear guards, and since I had no face up, I couldn't stride to do the Aristotle to kill the Laurel. And the next turn he broke ride, and he broke my I didn't even have a shield, honestly. Like, I had like 3 grade 3s and then 2, 3, 4 cards that were like 5k shields, like that, and that thing was swinging for massive numbers, so I literally had to take 2 hits from that, and I just died from 1 damage to, you know, 6. which was like, damn. Yeah. But yeah, I lost there, but I was able to still make it to top 4, and I tied for 3rd. Really proud of that. I really did. I'm proud because Aqua Force is one of my favorite clans, especially that it can be competitive, and especially with the character having the same name. I felt, really happy, and this guy. So this is my deck profile and for Aqua Force, and then I'll explain why I switched to Grand Blue for the ARG Nets, and I hope to see you guys later. And my friends and I are thinking that we'll do more of these videos, and hopefully we go through that. So I will invest for like a mounting for the camera angle. So I'll be do deck profiles and stuff, and I'll see you in the next video. Thank you guys. Bye.